meeting of the City Council on Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 at 5 p.m. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held electronically. And Annie, would you please give a roll call?
Mayor Miles?
Present.
Vice Mayor Lingenfelter?
Present.
Councilmember Mello Keener?
Present.
Councilmember Nelson? Councilmember Scott Staley?
Present.
Councilmember Watkins? And Councilmember Waite?
I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, our invocation will be given by Pastor Kelly Lewandowski of Hope City Church. Welcome.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to join you. I'm honored to be with you tonight. If you guys would just bow your heads and join me as we pray. God, we just come before you this evening, and we thank you for this opportunity to gather, though, in an unconventional way. Lord, we just invite your presence to be here in our midst. God, I thank you for every member that is present on the city council, for our mayor, for every leader within our city. God, you have chosen them to be in their position in this season, in this time. And God, I believe in your gracious guidance and your wisdom. I pray a blessing to be bestowed upon them. I pray that you would continue to lead them with your hand and your mercy and your wisdom. God, we need your direction now more than ever. We need your face to shine upon us. And God, I just ask for your favor over them. I pray that as they make decisions for the now season, Lord, I pray that you would also give them guidance as they look towards the future, as we are desiring to leave a legacy within our city, within the next generation. God, I pray that you would help in every aspect of the community that they consider, that you would surround them and fill them with wise counsel, that you would establish their steps. God, as we look towards the upcoming elections, Lord, I pray for unity. I pray that there may be diversity in thinking, that's what gives this team such a great roundedness. But Lord, I pray that at the end of the day, that there would be unity in decisions. And so, Lord, I thank you so much for them. And God, we give you this night. May you be in every aspect of it. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Would you join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The council may go into executive session for legal counsel in accordance with ARS 38-431-0383 to discuss any agenda item. The following items may be discussed, considered, and decisions made relating thereto. Our first order of business is appointments. For the Parks, Aquatic, Recreation, and Golf Commission appointment, Sydney Bailey has resigned her position on the Park Commission. The term she is serving expires December 31st, 2020. This leaves this position open to fill for a term ending December 31st, 2020. At this time, the Park Commission has 2 vacancies and 1 application on file from Karen Fogg. Staff recommends the appointment of Karen Fogg to the Park Commission for the remainder of Ms. Bailey's term ending December 31st, 2020. Annie, was there any statement that Ms. Fogg wanted for the council to hear? I know we do have our application.
I believe that was sent out to everybody. She had shared a comment. Did you receive that?
You sent an email?
Yeah, I can re-forward her comment if you'd like.
Okay. Was this recent that she submitted this? Is this something that we should read into the record?
Mr. Mearsman, do you have her statement handy?
I've got it in the email from her, and I can forward that.
I believe it was attached to the agenda item, Mayor.
Okay, I saw her application. Was it attached to that? Did the other members of the council see her statement?
I did not see that yet,
Not-
Mayor Miles. This is Vice Mayor Lingenfeld.
You did see it attached to this application?
I have not read it, no.
Because I
I'm
looked
looking,
at
I
that.
don't see it either.
I didn't see it on the application.
I didn't see it attached either.
I would be happy to share that now if you'd like.
Please do.
All right, it says, I, Karen Fogg, would like to be considered for the open position on the Park Commission. My family and I have lived in the Kingman area for more than 30 years and have used and participated in many of the facilities and programs offered. My husband is a member of the men's club at Surbat Cliffs Golf Course. I'm retired from the Kingman Parks and Recreation and have been a part of many changes through the years. I still have ideas and suggestions moving to the future and would like to be a part of decisions made for parks, aquatics, recreation, and golf. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Annie. Well, I would just like to add to that I've had the pleasure of riding with Ms. Fogg and Santa every Christmas in the Parade of Lights, and I know that of her wonderful contributions to that, and she is very, very dedicated to the well-being of this community and to our parks. But who is the liaison for that commission?
That's me.
Okay, I will turn it over to you then.
Okay, I would like to move that we appoint Karen Fogg to the Parks and Recreation and Golf Commission for the remainder of Miss Bailey's term, ending December 31st, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve Karen Fogg for the Parks, Aquatic, Recreation, and Golf Commission to serve until December 31st, 2020. All in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the second order of business is the call to the public. Comments from the public. Those wishing to address the council should fill out request forms in advance. Action taken as a result of these comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or rescheduling the matter for consideration and decision at a later time. Comments from the public will be restricted to items not on the agenda, with the exception of those on the consent agenda. There will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group, and comments should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. And because in-person attendance is suspended for this meeting, public comments were requested to be submitted in writing to the city clerk's office via email to the city clerk at cityofkingman.gov, or by placing them in the drop box at the city complex, or by mailing them to 319 North 4th Street, Kingman, Arizona 86401. And they were accepted up until 9 a.m. on July 21st, 2020, which was this morning. All comments will be shared with the council and made a part of the public record. Sorry. Members of the public can watch or listen to the meeting live via Channel 4 or on YouTube at youtube.com/City of Kingman. City Clerk, did we have any public comments received?
We did not receive any
Before 9
comments.
o'clock this morning. We did not receive any comments. Therefore, we will move on to the consent agenda. All matters here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Do any of the council members wish for a consent agenda item to be removed at this time? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, items A through G.
Madam Mayor, I will make that motion that we will approve the consent agenda items A through G.
Thank you, Counselor Nelson, and please note that Counselor Nelson is now in attendance. And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Counselor Staley. I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. We have no old business, so we will move into new business. Item A, resolution number 5284, designating the election date and purpose of election. The city will hold a general election on November 3rd, 2020, for the purpose of bringing a question to the voters regarding the sale of 1,813.4 acres of surplus real property generally located in the Kingman Airport and Industrial Park. Staff recommends approval. Manager Foggin, shall I turn this to you?
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that opportunity to speak on this. This is an item that we presented, of course, at last meeting. And just as a reminder for everybody, we were not anticipating being able to have this on the November ballot, but because we had a bookmark in place for another item, it just so happened that we had a space for it. So we're excited to be able to offer this up to the people of Kingman as something that they can vote on. And by doing so, we will be presenting, working on a pamphlet, informational pamphlet, to just let everybody know which land we're talking about and the importance of the facts regarding that. So I think we have all of the pieces in place to be able to move forward with presenting this to the people on the November ballot. And so we're just excited to be able to have this done now instead of having to have a special election in 2021. So not much more to report. Nothing really has changed since we talked about it at last meeting. This is just the final step in allowing it to go on the ballot. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. Turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Manager Foggin. It's really great to see this moving forward. Does anyone have questions or comments regarding this resolution and this action? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 5284, designating the election date and purpose of the election.
Madam Mayor, I would motion to approve resolution number 5284.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Annie, who did you hear first?
I heard Counselor Scott Staley first.
Okay, then we have a second. We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 5284. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Manager Foggin. Thank you, City Clerk Meredith. This is, I know this is fortuitous because we had that slot in the pipeline, if you will, but it sure has worked out well for this. Second order of business under new business is consideration of ordinance number 1904, rezoning of certain property located at Bank Street and Gordon Drive. A request from Gregory K. Seitz, applicant, and Michael G. Seitz, property owner, to rezone 2 parcels from RR Rural Residential to C3 Commercial Service Business. Both properties are located at the intersection of Gordon Drive and North Bank Street. Recommends approval. Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. So for the next 3 items, I'm going to actually turn the time over to Chris Young and his team to cover those items extensively for you and the council. So, Chris? planner will be presenting these three cases, so he's going to share his screen. Hopefully everybody, the technology. Gary, we're having a hard time hearing you. You're probably going to have to do it without a mask.
Can you hear me okay?
No, you're really, really faint.
Okay. Is this any better?
Yeah, take off your mask. There you go. Thank
Can you hear me
you.
better now?
Can everybody
Yes.
hear?
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Madam Mayor and members of the council, as was mentioned, this is a rezoning case from rural residential to commercial C3 in the Bank Street and Gordon area. Go through my PowerPoint here. And Michael Seitz and Gregory Seitz are the owner and applicant. And the matter was considered before the Planning and Zoning Commission on 2 occasions, March 10th and June 23rd. The subject properties are located, I've identified property 1 being just south of Gordon Drive, and then property number 2 is at the southeast corner of the Bank Street Gordon Drive intersection. And you can see I've labeled some surrounding land uses, such as a vet clinic and offices to the south, church to the south, state land to the north, offices and a car lot to the north, and a church to the west. Here are some photos looking west. The lower right is looking northwest. And that would be the street there in the lower photo is Arizona. Looking east on this property number 1 and looking south on property 1. On property 2, here's a couple photos looking southeast and looking south. The current zoning map, the properties are outlined in red. They're currently zoned rural residential, RR. And generally in the area, other properties are zoned RR, with the exception of 2 properties right in the middle of the 2 subject properties, which are both zoned C3 and intensive commercial use or zone. The general plan map identifies the 2 properties as generally being located in a community commercial designation. And this is the black lines or the intersection of Gordon and Bank Street. The properties do have access to water and sewer utilities. Some of the findings we made are the property number 1 is approximately 1 acre in size, and property 2 is almost 2 acres in size. The zoning property number 1 was annexed in 1977 and subsequently zoned RR. And then property 2 was later annexed in the year 2000 and was also zoned RR. Both sites remain undeveloped. Both sites are generally flat topographically. As mentioned, property or the public utilities are available, and transportation. Both properties have frontage and access along Gordon Drive. Property 1 also has access on North Arizona Street, and property 2 has frontage and access along North Bank Street. There are some unimproved portions along North Arizona Street and Gordon Drive, which will be addressed at the time of development and are included in the proposed conditions of approval. We did post the site as the picture showed with zoning notice signs. We also published in the paper the Kingman Daily Miner notification of the hearings, And then surrounding property owners were also mailed notification, those that are within 300 feet of the subject properties. And then at the March 10th meeting, we did have one gentleman provide testimony, and I'll just read that. Kingman resident Wes Maroney addressed the commission and acknowledged that the subject sites would be better as a commercial development than residential, and the commercial venue revenue could help bring income to the city. He also noted that especially with the Kingman High School less than a block away, it would behoove the city to know what sort of business was being proposed for the properties. No objections were received from any department or agency. City engineering has proposed 2 conditions of approval dealing with street improvements and site drainage. And the economic development department provided a memo in support of the application, which is included in the staff report. Part of the analysis for determining if a property should be rezoned, it must demonstrate that there's a need for the uses permitted in the zoning district. C3, the proposed zoning district, offers a variety of commercial land uses, and many corridors such as the North Bank Street and particularly this intersection of Gordon Drive and North Bank Street are where the city has provided zoning that allows a potential of intensive commercial land uses, which provide a well-balanced mix of uses throughout the city. Uses permitted by right and by conditional use in the C1 and C2 zones are also allowed in the C3 zone, which is of course being proposed. And then all uses within this that are listed in the C3 zone would be allowed as well. The suitability of the proposed zoning district and compatibility with the surrounding area and community. The properties are in an area of mixed uses, residential, commercial. We've got C3 maintains provisions that are intended to protect residentially zoned property by requiring screening for outdoor storage and requiring masonry walls not less than 6 feet, but no more than 8 feet along the abutting side or rear yard of those residential districts. Conditional use permits offer additional opportunities for conditions intended to increase compatibility with surrounding property. Number two, has an added layer of review through what we have as the Bank Street Design Review Overlay District. Details of that overlay district are provided in the commission report. To ensure compatibility with the neighborhood and community and have consistent standards, staff has proposed and the Planning Commission recommends a proposed condition of approval that applies the Bank Street Overlay Design Review criteria or standards to all of property number 1. And I'll show you how that relates here. The area in yellow is the current Bank Street Design Review Overlay District. And as you can see, property number 1 is partially in and partially out. And so the recommended condition is that the entire property is treated with those design review standards. And then property 2, of course, is entirely within the current Bank Street Overlay District. Suitability continued is the Bank Street Overlay District. Some of the examples of the standards would be for buildings shall be compatible with the colors and textures of the surrounding environment, including warm earth tones to be used. Highly reflective materials shall not be used. Mechanical equipment shall be screened. Entryways need to be not flush with the building wall, but shall be recessed or have human scale overhangs, trellis or porch coverings. And then also storage or shipping containers as accessory uses may be allowed if completely screened inside a yard. Conformance with the general plan, part of the analysis, the general plan 2030 designates the 2 properties as community commercial, which does allow for the zoning district of C3. Therefore, the rezoning request is in conformance with the general plan. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission is to in fact rezone from rural residential for property 1 and 2 to the C3 commercial service business with the following conditions. Number 1 is regarding drainage, and in accordance with the Kingman drainage master plan, the developer will be required to analyze existing and post-development drainage conditions and provide retention for these increased runoff amounts at the time of development. Also with street improvements, number 2, the developer will be required to improve adjacent streets with asphalt, curb, gutter, and sidewalks as required by the streets and sidewalks development rules and regulations at the time of development. And new driveways shall be located as required in the street sidewalk development rules and regulations. And then finally, as I mentioned, number 3 for property 1, the entire, it shall be considered or have the Bank Street Design Overlay District standards applied to the entire property. With that, I would stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there questions regarding this resolution and this rezoning from the council? So if I understand correctly, that was the only comment, and those around with the that have more residential zoning voiced no objections to this rezone. Is that correct?
We did not receive any objections of the proposal, and in fact, they did early on provide a conceptual site plan for residential uses, multifamily, rather than commercial, but yeah, we have not received any opposition.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, given that, I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1904, rezoning of certain property located at Bank Street and Gordon Drive. Hello.
I will make a motion that we accept ordinance number 1904 with those design recommendations and other things we mentioned.
Thank you, Councilor Staley. May I have a second?
I will second that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1904, rezoning certain property located at Bank Street and Gordon Drive. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. The next consideration is of ordinance number 1905, rezoning of certain property located at 3880 Andy Devine Avenue. A request from Jeremiah Divis, applicant, and Five Star Partners LLC, property owner, to rezone certain property from I-1 light industry to I-2 heavy industry. The property that is subject to the rezoning is approximately 2.7 acres and is located at 3880 East Andy Devine Avenue, and staff recommends approval. I'll turn that over to you, Mr. Young.
Okay, we're just toggling our screen here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission or council. Proposed before you is the rezoning case RZ 20-003, a rezoning from I-1 light industry to I-2 heavy industry. The applicants, as the mayor mentioned, or the applicant is Five Star Partners, and Jeremiah Divis is the applicant. The vicinity map shown here puts the property where the star is, and it's located on East Andy Devine Drive, Highway 66, and just south of East Gordon Drive, and is, you can sort of see outlined in red, that is the entire area that's being rezoned or requested to be rezoned. Some site photos looking south at the property, looking west. You can see some of the operations and our posted sign. The current zoning for the property has been mentioned, and it's I-1 light industry, and it is surrounded to the south. There is I-2 zoning, which is the heavier industrial zone, and which is what is being requested for this property. So it would continue the I-2 city zoning to the north, to where you can see the county zoned CM, which is commercial manufacturing, I understand. And then to the east or northwest is the county zoning as well, C2. And to the east is railroad property. The general plan map designates the property and surrounding area for manufacturing industrial, which does support the I-2 request. And to the northwest is designated community commercial. And then past the railroad tracks to the east, we have medium density residential and a pocket of public, quasi-public land use designation. An aerial photo again with a utility map. It is, the property is served by water, but the sanitary sewer is by septic system. Some findings that were made during the research on this project or proposal is that the proposal involves 2 parcels of land that comprise about 6 acres of land. However, we're dealing with a split zoned parcel. So this rezoning to I-2 would remove that split zoning and would allow 2.7 acres to be zoned I-2. The parcels are currently being used as automobile and scrap metal recycling, as well as fibers and plastics. The property was annexed in 1977 and subsequently zoned to I-1 through the 1978 zoning map adoption. In 1995, a portion of the property was rezoned from I-1 to I-2, and the area being considered for rezoning to I-2 is currently developed. The property is developed, as mentioned, and is in use. The land is generally flat. As mentioned, water services located in East Andy Devine and serves the property, and the area, the general area and the site that use the septic system to handle sanitary sewer. The transportation is accessed by Andy Devine Avenue, which has an approximately a 230-foot right-of-way and has an improved roadway, but does not include curb, gutter, and sidewalk. Notification: the property was posted with zoning notification signs. We published in the Kingman Daily Miner, and property owners within 300 feet were mailed notice of the hearings. And so far, no comments as of today's date. No comments from public agencies have been received regarding this request. Part of the analysis for rezoning demonstrated you must have a demonstrated need for the uses permitted in a zoning district. The property operates as an automobile scrap metal fibers and plastics recycler. The use is existing and not entirely different from other businesses in the vicinity. The presence of these other similar businesses represents the need for these auto and scrap metal land uses in the community. Suitability of the proposed zoning district and compatibility with the surrounding area and community. The property is surrounded by industrial land uses and industrial zoning, with the residential and other areas being isolated either through Andy Devine right-of-way or through the railroad property acting as a buffer. Conformance with the general plan 2030 designates the property as manufacturing industrial, which does support a request of I2 zoning. And this would rezoning would further implement and be in conformance with the general plan. The P&Z Commission recommendation is that they recommend approval of the requested rezoning of light industry to I2 heavy industry. With that, I stand for questions.
Thank you. So it appears that this rezone would basically bring this property into a unified zoning classification, that the business is already
Correct.
there and it already meets the criteria for I2. So this would actually just make this a cohesive and compliant whole. Is that true?
Yes, the rezoning to I2 would make that area more consistent with our rules and regulations.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Young?
Madam Mayor, this is Councilman Watkins.
Welcome, and I wanted to note that you were here in attendance, so
Oh,
go ahead, please.
sorry, I was a little bit late. First, I need to put forward, I need to recuse myself from this, from any kind of, I can't do any discussion on this because I am one of the owners of 5 Star Partners. So I just wanted to formally put that out there and then go on from there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? And I would ask for a motion to approve ordinance number 1905, rezoning of certain property located at 3880 Andy Devine Avenue.
Madam Mayor, I will move that we approve consideration of ordinance 1905 rezoning of certain property located at 3880 Andy Devine Avenue.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. And I would like a second, please.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Vice Mayor, second. I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1905. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And our final rezone issue is consideration. No, we're through.
Mayor?
We're through with that, right? Yes,
Mayor?
ma'am. Yes, sir.
I just
Manager
want to
Foggin.
make sure that we acknowledge that Councilman Watkins abstained from the vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We acknowledge that he abstained from the vote. Okay. The final new business is consideration of ordinance number 1906, approving a minor text amendment in the zoning ordinance. A request from Evan Pizer, applicant, to amend the city's zoning ordinance related to medical marijuana. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of modifications, but only to the extent as follows. 1, do not remove the word medical from all instances in the zoning ordinance using the term medical marijuana. 2, modify the zoning ordinance to allow medical marijuana dispensaries to operate every day of the week rather than what is currently allowed, Monday through Saturday. 3, modify the zoning ordinance to allow medical marijuana dispensaries to operate from the hours of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., an increase of 3 hours in the evening from what is currently allowed. And 4, do not modify the zoning ordinance to allow drive-through services. Staff recommends approval. Manager Foggin. Or
Thank you, Mayor. Again, this falls to Chris and
Yes, go
his
ahead,
team,
please.
so I
Let's go
will
ahead and
turn
take
it
this
over to
one.
them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is a ordinance consideration 1906 for ordinance 1906. And the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations that the mayor mentioned are incorporated into the proposed ordinance. The original request that we received was from Evan Pizer, and that his request was to remove the word medical from all instances in the ordinance referring to medical marijuana. His second request was to modify the days of the week for medical marijuana operation to allow them to operate all days of the week. And then number three, eliminate restrictions on operational hours entirely, whereas the current code allows a medical marijuana dispensary to operate from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then finally, his original request was to allow medical marijuana dispensaries to have drive-through services. I've provided some findings of fact that are also included in your staff report, but basically I'll skip to number three and point out that through ordinance 1700-B, the standards for the establishment and operation of medical marijuana dispensaries and cultivation were established for the city, and included were the C3, I1, and I2 zones, which allow the medical marijuana dispensaries and cultivation, which cultivation is only in conjunction with the dispensary, subject to conditions and limitations. And number four, I might mention that the original language or the current language of the zoning ordinance regarding medical marijuana is based on Proposition 203 and the 2010 model ordinance from the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. However, the model ordinance leaves blank the specific hours of operation, leaving that to the preference of the local municipality. Currently, the zoning ordinance refers to marijuana only in terms of medical marijuana, not recreational. Currently, the zoning ordinance does not allow medical marijuana dispensaries to operate on Sundays. Currently, the ordinance does not or does allow medical marijuana dispensaries to operate between the hours of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Currently, the zoning ordinance does not allow drive-through services for medical marijuana dispensaries. Recreational use of marijuana has not been approved by the federal government or state of Arizona. Other communities that staff researched have not changed their code to anticipate the use of recreational marijuana. And finally, other cities that we researched generally allow medical marijuana dispensaries to be operational from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., with some operating as late as being allowed to operate as late as 10 p.m. Public notification for the zoning text request change modification was published in the Kingman Daily Miner. And then on June 22nd, we received a letter of support for the proposal signed by 123 individuals. There was not an ability to verify, giving these are signatures to verify if they're residents of the city or who they are exactly, but they're individuals that are in support of the proposal. And specifically in number 1 and 2 there, they support allowing medical marijuana dispensaries to extend days of operation to Monday through Sunday. And then 2, to allow medical dispensaries to extend hours of operation from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. The letter of support mirrors what the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends to the council and is reflected in the proposed ordinance 1906. The petition requests, I think this is duplicated, but their reasons, if you further down the slide, the reasons they support the change in hours and days of operation are: 1, there's an insufficient amount of time for marijuana patients to leave their employment and drive to the marijuana dispensary to pick up medication at the end of their workday. Number two, because of the dispensary closing at 6, many patients are unable to place orders on their way home from work. Number three, due to scheduling difficulties, many patients are required to make an additional trip on their day off, request time off from their employer, or have extended delays in picking up their medication. And finally, some patients have limited means of transportation and rely on caregivers and other transportation options, such as Uber. This costs residents an unnecessary increase of time and money. The analysis portion of this is removing the word medical from the medical marijuana terminology. I'll skip through this, but this was not supported by staff, and staff does not find that the requested change is appropriate given the current laws regarding recreational use of marijuana. Extending the days of medical marijuana dispensaries that they can operate. The request is to operate 7 days a week, and the applicant has asserted that this change of an additional 1 day will in fact increase his business revenue and increase the city's taxes by $8,000 to $10,000 annually. Extending operating hours of medical marijuana dispensaries. The original request was to eliminate the hour restrictions entirely. The amended request from the applicant is requested that this only be allowed, or the operational hours be extended from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. The Economic Development Department and the Police Department recommend extending the operational hours an additional 3 hours to 9 p.m. Economic Development has stated that this will allow the applicant's dispensary business to have the same store hours as Bash's Supermarket, which is in the same commercial plaza. However, it's important to keep in mind that this is a community-wide zoning text amendment, not site-specific. And then for some comparison, the following slides show hours of operation of medical marijuana dispensaries in other communities within Arizona. On the left, I've identified the communities and verified at their websites and their zoning ordinances what in fact are their operational hours. And you can see that at the bottom, I've provided a median and average, and they both come out basically hours of operation of, generally speaking, are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. For most areas. Again, I noted that some can operate as late as 10 p.m. and the earliest hours of operation are 6 a.m. Now, Mojave County was not listed in this comparison because it was not a city, and I wanted to compare cities. The important thing to note about the county is there are no restrictions on hours or days of operation currently if you have a medical marijuana dispensary located in the county. Allowing drive-through services, the police department felt that security measures on these businesses are purposely established to minimize theft and diversion, and felt that a drive-through would compromise security measures. Conformance with the general plan, basically noted here, we'll skip down to objectives number 1 and 3. Objective 1 and objective 3. This would promote Kingman as a place to live, be employed, become educated, and to locate a business. Objective 3, this change would encourage a compatible mix of land uses, which allows accessibility to goods and services without extensive travel. The original request is narrowed through staff's recommendations, which would allow the extended days and hours of operation for dispensaries. And because of this, the land use, it is in conformance with the general plan. The recommendation, and again, is reflected in ordinance 1906, proposed ordinance. The commission recommends approval of the changes with the following modifications. Number one is, again, do not remove the word medical from all instances in the ordinance that use the term medical marijuana. Number two, modify the ordinance to allow dispensaries to operate every day of the week rather than only Monday through Saturday, which is currently allowed. Number three, modify the zoning ordinance to allow the medical marijuana dispensaries to operate from the hours of 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is an increase of 3 hours in the evening from what is currently allowed. And four, do not modify the zoning ordinance to allow drive-through services. With that, Mayor, I stand for questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments concerning ordinance number 1906 and the approval of this text amendment to the zoning ordinance?
Mayor, I would just like to point out, thank you very much for all of the due diligence done on this. Looks like they've pretty much covered every angle. So thank you, team. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilor Nelson. And I agree. This has been a great process, and our appreciation to our staff and also to the commission. I think these are very viable and good recommendations. So if there are no other comments, I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1906, approving a minor text amendment for the zoning ordinance, to the zoning ordinance.
Madam Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll
Councilor
just
Nelson. Go
go
ahead.
with the 1906 approval of the minor text amendments.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Mellekiner. We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1906 and approve a minor text amendment to the zoning ordinance. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Nay.
Annie, do you have the roll call, or do you need a roll call?
Able to capture the vote.
Okay, thank you. The ayes have it, motion carries. Next, we'll move on to department reports, and item A is procurement resources. Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of council meetings ago, I believe the Vice Mayor had asked that we cover a little bit of what we've been doing with procurement and the resources for vendors. And so I've been working with our finance director, Tina Moline, to have a presentation for you. It's, of course, brief, but insightful. And so I'll turn the time over to Ms. Tina.
Thank you. Hello, Director Moline.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. And I don't necessarily have a presentation, although I just wanted to really share what we've been doing, and I can certainly bring up some of the resources that we've posted on our webpage if the Vice Mayor or anyone else is interested. So we have had launched for quite some time now for our vendors as a way to encourage and maximize competition when we have formal solicitations, a site called Vendor Registry. And that's been up for, goodness, I want to say about a year now. And so that was the first effort that we took when the new procurement code was adopted. But after that, although all of the different departments purchase on their own, having some sort of central location for our vendors as a resource for just general questions about payments and invoicing and purchasing methods, we knew was important. And so over the past couple of months, we've been working on that and actually just launched a dedicated page towards procurement this last week. And so on it, it talks about who kind of oversees the process of the purchasing and oversees the code and ensuring compliance. And so it references the finance department and the city clerk and gives contact information. It also lists contact information for each of the departments. It also provides a link directly to our procurement code, as well as has several pages underneath that procurement main page for other vendor resources. So a frequently asked questions page, vendor forms, and then descriptions of what those forms are used for and when they're needed, as well as methods of purchasing. So a quick summary of our thresholds, how each of those thresholds work, when competition is required in those purchases. So we're excited to have that launched. We get a lot of questions from vendors through finance, as well as the departments, but finance also gets a lot of questions from vendors. So we think this is going to be very helpful and beneficial to our community, as well as just the public in general can reach out and get information on our purchasing standards and requirements.
Thank you, Tina. That sounds like a very helpful page, and I would open this to questions or comments from the council.
Madam Mayor, this is Vice Mayor Lingenfelter.
Go ahead.
I would just have a few questions for Director Moline, if I could.
Certainly.
Tina, thank you for the information. I did go online to the city's webpage and saw the information that is available right now, and I just have a few follow-up questions. So right now, the City of Kingman is a decentralized procurement department, and it says that all departments currently keep their own vendor registry. So as a company, you would have to go out and register with all departments, multiple departments, and that I don't think that's very vendor friendly. It also looks like right now currently the city is requiring both and correct me if I'm wrong, both an online vendor registry and then also there's a hard copy vendor application. So it seems a little redundant. I'm not sure how those two play off of each other. I'd be curious about that, and I think what would solve all of that would maybe if the city were just to migrate to one centralized online vendor registration system that all departments could access when they're going out for public procurements. It would be easier for the vendor community, and it would be easier, I would think, for our departments to all be able to just go to one place online. But do we require both at this right now, both a hard copy vendor registration or application and the online vendor registry?
So no, we don't. So the vendor application, Vice Mayor, is actually once we have awarded a contract to a vendor, they are required to complete an application in order to become a registered vendor with the city. However, the vendor registry system is so that vendors who might be interested at some point down the road or for a current formal solicitation, they can enroll with vendor registry and they will receive automatic notifications anytime that we have a formal solicitation posted. So two different processes.
Okay, so are you saying that the hard copy vendor application has to be filled out one time, the very first time that they become a vendor for the city?
That's correct.
Or every time that they do a job for the city?
Just one time. It just allows us to go ahead and register them as an active vendor and do our due diligence and background on them.
Okay, that's good to know. So then on the online vendor registry, how do vendors, how do they register for all the appropriate commodities and service categories? Because if I'm a parks equipment guy, I may not want to get all of your road equipment and your fire truck solicitations.
So the vendor registry system actually asks, as vendors are enrolling, they ask for vendors to complete the NIGP code that is applicable to them, so that when we, meaning the city clerk, so thank you, Annie, for doing this, when she actually posts the formal solicitation on there, she'll go through and select the NIGP code that is applicable to that formal solicitation, and then basically post it to vendors who are already enrolled through the City of Kingman's vendor registry site, as well as try to recruit vendors who haven't quite enrolled with the City of Kingman on vendor registry that apply to that NIGP code.
Got it. So my next question would be, let's say I'm a company and I move locations and I have to change my address. Can I just go into the online vendor registration system and change that one time, or do I have to change it with every single department?
So vendor registry, we do not use vendor registry to collect vendor information for our internal vendor system. So we would then require a vendor, we meaning just the finance department, we're the only ones that maintain vendor information. So we would require a vendor to complete a change application, which is also on our website, to update an address and then be signed by a principal officer.
Great, and that information will be available to all of our departments. Is that correct?
That is
Good.
correct.
Great. The only other question I had, and I didn't see it, and maybe I missed it, but I think it would be a great idea for the city of Kingman to offer some sort of an online vendor guide for all companies that are looking to do business with the city of Kingman, that would just like a frequently asked questions type of a book. I've seen those around. We used to use one of those at Mojave County as well. And if we don't have one, I think that would be a customer service thing for all the companies that want to do business.
I'm glad you asked that, actually. So we launched the webpage with all of the information that you've researched, and we're currently working on a vendor guide. And I actually reached out to the procurement department, Tara, actually recently, and she sent over their vendor guide for me to go ahead and utilize and pull out pieces. So we'll be working on that and hopefully having that posted, I would hope by the end of August, middle to the end of August.
Perfect. Thank you for answering all my questions, and great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments for Director Moline?
I do, Mayor.
I will just add my thanks to you, Tina, because it sounds like we've got a very streamlined process and a lot of work has been done, and it's really appreciated. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Mello Keener had a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sue. Please go ahead, Counselor.
I just wanted to thank Tina. She's always thorough, does such a great job. Really appreciate you, Tina. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Counselor Mello Keener. Okay, we move on to the next department report, which is the FAA land release timeline update.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think I made reference to this in our last meeting when we were talking about the land, putting the land up for the folks to vote on, for our citizens to vote on to release that land takes another step, which is FAA requirement. And so the vice mayor in one of the council meetings had asked for this to be a department report, which we're happy about, because this is something that we've been working on for quite some time. And of course, with the approval of the sale of the land, put on the ballot for November, of course, we're going to also need to have the approval from the FAA to formally release it to be able to be used for economic development and for industry. So with that, I've invited Gary Kellogg to give you a little bit more information about the land release. And I think he has invited our consultant also to walk you through where we've been and what it will look like, and when we expect, if all things line up, when we expect to have the land release complete. So I will turn the time over to Gary and team to walk you through that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Kellogg.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. This process was started in conjunction when we began the master planning for the airport. And so Kaufman and Associates is our consultant. And so they had agreed to guide us through the release process. And so with that, we started not too long after we had taken over the airport to address the master plan. And then shortly after that, we asked if they would assist us in the release. And so we began the process. Tonight, what I'd like to do is I have with me Matt Quick and Corey Lewis, and they are with Kaufman and Associates. Matt is intimately involved with the master planning and has assisted in the release. Corey has probably done most of the work as it relates to the release itself. So with that, I'm going to let them come online with us here and share with you the information where we've been, where we are now, and where we are going in the very near future. And then after that, certainly open it up to questions. So with that, Matt and Corey, you're on.
Welcome, Mr. Quick and Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor and fellow council members, and thank you, Gary and Ron. This is Matt Quick with Kaufman Associates, and like Gary had mentioned, we've had the privilege of working with the Kingman Airport over the past several years on several projects, and most recently we're involved with the airport master plan update, as well as the land release. And like Gary had mentioned, I've been primarily involved in the master plan and on the call this evening, as well as Corey Lewis, and he's been more involved on the land release side of things. So I'm going to hand it over to Corey. I think he's got the schedule and kind of the timeline as it relates to the land release. I think that's really the focus of the discussion this evening. I'll be happy to help answer any questions related to the master plan. But at this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Corey, and he can talk in more detail about the land release. Go ahead, Corey.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, we appreciate the opportunity to join in with you this evening. Annie, I'm going to request sharing the screen so I can share the schedule. That pops up. Is everybody able to see the screen now? Okay, with the Gantt chart outlining the process. So in general, I think Gary gave a good overview. This whole process has 4 big components. We've got the airport master plan, the Section 163 determination, which is a new and evolving process within FAA. We've got an environmental assessment, and then we have the land release itself. So as Gary mentioned, we started back with the airport master plan process, and Matt has been guiding that along for us. I tried to reduce something here. So that started in late 2018. And one of the big outcomes of the master plan is identifying areas of land at the airport that are no longer needed for airport purposes. So, as Matt has moved along through that process, we really got to, came into focus earlier this year, which areas would not be needed for future airport development. And that's key when we're communicating with FAA, because they want to know for sure, that we've confirmed that the land that we're releasing is not going to be needed for any sort of airport purpose in the future. So be it a runway or any hangar development, we want to know for certain that we're releasing the right pieces of property. So, as that came into focus earlier this year, we then began some discussions, more detailed discussions with FAA. We went through several conference calls with FAA, March, April of this year. And at that point, they requested a draft project schedule, a draft purpose and need statement, which we prepared earlier in our process, a conceptual land use development plan for the area that would be released, and also a land release questionnaire, which is an internal document. FAA wants to know some pretty specific information. If there's any deed restrictions related to the property, and how did the city come to own the property, and generally what are the plans for the property. And then at that point, we also put together a request to request a letter of an intent to release. And what that means is kind of prior to a formal release, the FAA would provide a letter kind of giving their buy-off in concept of releasing the property, which in turn could be used by the city to communicate with any prospective developers. for that are interested in the property to be released. After that, those materials were submitted to FAA by letter. At some point later in May, FAA requested an airport layout plan revision to really identify this area. And that was part of, as these materials went through the chain of review through FAA. So we started in Phoenix, and then it went on to the regional office and ultimately to headquarters. So the FAA has been looking at this, and at that point, it pivoted into the Section 163 determination process. So FAA took all that information and ultimately responded on July 6th with a determination letter. And it confirmed what we had anticipated, that through that Section 163 process, in certain situations, the NEPA component or that environmental assessment is not required. However, FAA, in looking at the property and all the facts, the information we provided, FAA determined that an environmental assessment is needed, largely because Section 163 states that if the project was transferred through a Surplus Property Act transfer, then an EA environmental assessment is needed, and the Section 163 does not apply. So with that in hand, which is a necessary part of the process, we communicated again with FAA. This is earlier this month with the draft. Through their letter, they requested a draft scope of services to basically pick up the land release and the remaining part of the environmental assessment. And we also provided an updated schedule. So the schedule now that we're seeing here on screen is it's a more condensed, more aggressive schedule that we put together. And then we also reiterated that request to get the letter of intent to release. In FAA's initial response, they were silent on that issue, and so we hopefully in communicating with them at that point made it clear that we're interested in getting that letter for the city. So that brings us up to today. Through that response letter, we have requested an additional follow-up conference call with FAA. Initially, we offered last week and this week. FAA has not been responsive to that. And they, to my understanding, suggested sometime in August. So that kind of background gets us to where we are today in the process. So I can, and if anybody has any questions about the, where we've been so far, happy to answer those. Otherwise, I can move on to what lies ahead in the process. So I can open up for questions.
Any questions about how we got to today? Hearing none, I think we're ready to see where we're going.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So at this point, we've done some of the initial legwork for the environmental assessment, and there's two big pieces that need to be completed. So we're looking at the land release, which begins, and it takes some of that similar information from the questionnaire. It'll take a legal description of the property that gets communicated to FAA, and it goes back up to headquarters. Meanwhile, so I guess need to point out that the land release process can't be completed until the EA is completed. That NEPA, the environmental assessment, is completed. So as you see here, that we've got some work occurring early in the land release process. Meanwhile, the EA would kick off and continue through that process. Once the EA is completed, which we're expecting to be approximately a 9-month process, at that point, once you have the environmental clearance in hand, then we kick into the Federal Register notice, which needs to be posted, and then there's a public review process that happens along with that, and then a 6 to 8 week process in which FAA finalizes all that information and it eventually sends the letter that we're after for the land release.
Yay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that'll be a joyous occasion for sure.
Yes, it will. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Okay, questions regarding this journey and this Gantt chart, which is very colorful. Or comments?
Madam Mayor, this is Vice Mayor Lingenfelter. So
Yes.
it looks like we're anticipating or predicting the process is going to be over by April of 21 of next year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And are there any other areas in here where you think there may be some room for expediting? I asked just to ask.
So, earlier in the process, I mentioned that we provided a schedule that was communicated with FAA. We did go back through and look to condense that. The previous version ended in approximately June. We feel like on our end, we can get to the initial environmental documentation review in approximately 3 months from the time we start. Then we're really, truthfully, we're up to FAA's timelines on review. So, these are, pretty best case scenarios in terms of these red bars, the length of those, but those are all critical steps in this process. So basically, you can't move forward.
Vice Mayor?
Mayor, this is Ron Foggin, City Manager.
Yes, Manager, go ahead.
I just want to put out there the reference to the FAA. Our regional manager and his team have been fantastic, and just want to say that we have confidence, at least in the regional FAA team, that that they're being responsive. They have reached out and asked that we have a kickoff meeting. I believe that was referenced. They're looking for the week of April 10th or August 10th for that. And so we're looking forward to having that conversation and just, again, working with our consultant and our team and the FAA to just ask that as we kick this off, that they do everything that they can to meet the deadlines in this schedule that we put together and really in good faith. So we will push our side as much as we can. I think our team, with our consultant, have done. We'll do everything in our power to make this as quick as we possibly can. So that's our commitment.
Thank you, Manager Foggin. It is a very complex process. That's clear. It's also clear that you have a keen understanding of every single step along the way. And so I know we all appreciate that. And I feel confident that you're going to, do whatever you can to make this timeline manifest, if you will. And obviously there are variables with FAA and everything else, but this is, as we stand, very good news for the city. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Mayor, I would just like to say also thank you to Manager Foggin and his team and our consultants for expediting this and getting it done finally. It's going to be so great for Kingman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Quick, and Mr. Kellogg. Any other words?
No, I too want to thank the consultants, and also Manager Foggin joined in our team when this really started to crop up, and so we've been pushing it. And I really want to also reinforce the state people with the FAA have been extremely helpful. So
yeah.
They've come forward when at times when we didn't expect that normally would happen. So.
That's excellent. Sounds like a great working partnership. Thank you. Anything else, Manager Foggin, on that issue? Thank you for the report.
You are very welcome. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on to announcements by mayor, council members, city manager. This is limited to announcements, board and commission liaison reports, availability and attendance at conferences and seminars. And I would start with you, Manager Foggin.
Thank you, Mayor. Only a couple things. As has been our tradition, the Census 2020 report is that we're a little bit in a lull. There was a change out of our representative to the Bureau, the Census Bureau. Our local person is no longer there. The new person's trying to get up to speed. And our task force is going to reconvene to see what else we can do to reach out to community members and encourage them to be part of the census. So that's kind of where we are on the census. Still about 72% self-reported, which is fantastic. We want to do better than that. The other thing is just a reminder that the council, as far as the April, why do I keep saying April? It's not
August.
August. The August 4th meeting is canceled for the council due to the primary election happening that day. So just wanted to remind everybody that we will not be meeting. And unfortunately, part of that was supposed to be that we were going to be at league meetings. That will not happen, obviously, with the pandemic. But for those that are interested, the business meeting of the league will still occur through electronic format. I believe they're going to do Zoom. And so that is will be that week. So if you're interested in the business meeting of the league, that still will be carried out. And I believe that's all my announcements, Mayor.
Thank you, Manager. I'll move on to Council Member Watkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Trying
Just
to
actually,
visualize the Diaz. I'm sorry.
you're good. Just want to thank, all our citizens who are willing to serve on our commissions, and thank our commissions again. I know Planning and Zoning, for example, met twice, I think, in the month of June because they had so much on their agenda.
Right.
We can't thank them enough. And all those other people who are sort of in wait right now and sort of in a holding mode because of the commissions can't meet because of the whole COVID virus and what's going on with that. So once again, just want to thank everybody who is willing to serve the city.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I join you in that thanks. Councilor Wade.
I have nothing to add at this time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, certainly. Councilor Staley.
Nothing tonight. Thank you.
Councilor Nelson.
Not at all. Have a great week, guys.
Thank you. Councilor Mello Keener.
Yes, Mayor, I have something.
Okay, go ahead.
There was a Parks, Rec, and Golf Commission special meeting on July 15th, and it was a presentation given by Teresa Jackson of Green Play. And after a lot of discussion, after her presentation, the commission voted unanimously to recommend the master plan final draft to be submitted to City Council for approval. And I think that's going to be on our August 18th agenda.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to letting you guys see it. And I already have citizens contacting me. So I'm ready to get it out there and see what you guys think.
Thank you. That will be an exciting plan.
Yes.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended an airport commission meeting yesterday, and I just want to report that our airport manager has declared that we've received $5.5 million in about 18 months, or since the city of Kingman has taken over operations. That is not normal. That's amazing, and a real testament to how good it was for us to bring the airport and put it back on a renewed path of growth. So happy to hear that. I did have some follow-up questions, and I think Manager Foggin followed up and included all of the council on those. So thank you for all of the work that is going on in the airport. And I apologize, I'm in Beaver Dam tonight, so sorry for the noise.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, I just have a couple of things. One, I wanted to let the council know and the public know that Manager Foggin and I have met with representatives of North Country this week. This is part of the ongoing or a result of ongoing dialogue that we have weekly with Health Department and just a whole cadre of people that discuss COVID. But part of it is, I'm sure you know, is that every area is trying to increase testing availability for our citizens. And so we have started this direct communication, and I'm very encouraged, and I expect that we will be bringing forth some results from the efforts that we're making there in the next few weeks, and that's our hope. And we'll be able to announce some hopefully expanded testing for Kingman. Also, we had Tri-City Council last week, and I just wanted to mention that the Department of Transportation report was given, and it was noted that they postponed adopting their 5-year plan until October, and because they were not sure of the revenue that would be coming in. But now they are seeing that maybe the revenue projections will not be quite as dire as they thought it might be, which would be good if that is the case. Also, if there's any legislative help, that will be good too. But the only reason I bring it up is that we have the West Kingman interchange project, and so hopefully it will not be impacted at all. But it's important to realize that they have postponed that budget decision until October. And also, I just wanted to congratulate the Jerry Ambrose Veterans Council for getting their $500,000 grant to keep working on the facility downtown that will be such an asset for our homeless veterans. And one last thing, I attended the Northwest Attainment meeting this week, actually last week. The days are flowing together, but this is an important, we will be getting a report on this. Dr. Klippenstein actually has a steering committee. I'm on that committee, and we are a committee that is formed, and now we've formed hubs in each city, and we're all dedicated to tracking and creating initiatives that will increase the attainment of high school degrees, also college level degrees and credentials. So it's Donna Davis from Phoenix. I think many of us know her from Expect More Arizona, is on that steering committee, and Amy West and others I'm sure you know. But we'll be bringing forth more information as that goes forward. But I will say that we recognize that in this time of pandemic, it impacts everything as we're just trying to figure out how to open schools, especially when we're trying to set up an infrastructure to promote and advance higher attainment. So we're aware of that, but it still is important that we establish an infrastructure for the future, if you will, so that we can have it in place and have the tracking mechanisms in place to help us move forward. So I think that's all that I have for this evening. And just a thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you for all the work that's being done, Manager Foggin and team, and consultants and commissions and everyone who works to move this city forward. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, before you
Yes.
adjourn, you might want to see if you have any people who want to put anything on the agenda.
Oh, no, I don't. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. I thought that just sounded like an ending there. But you're right. We have one more item, and that is council requests for future reports and updates. Do we have any requests for future reports and updates? I want those switched, Manager Foggin, because I always think announcements are kind of the end. Okay.
We certainly can look at that, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Do any of the councilors, would you like, or Vice Mayor, would you like to put anything on future reports? We know we're going to get that park report, which is good. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second it.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, aye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Aye. Ayes have it.
Bye.
Motion carries. Good night, everybody.
Good
Bye.
night.
Night.